Hello, my name's Debbie Evans. I'm the nursing correspondent for UK Column. Today, I'm delighted but also very sad at the circumstances with which to welcome Alex Kelly, who's speaking out for the first time. And I think everybody is going to be extremely shocked at what they hear from Alex. Alex's reason to speak out today and to tell her story is because she has literally trailblazed her way through closed doors. Extraordinary. But as you'll come to hear as we go on, we're going to have to just say that for litigation reasons, some names won't be able to be used as yet. So please bear with us. And I'm sure Alex, when she's in a position to, will come back and tell us more. So without further ado, I want to welcome you, Alex, to UK Column, and thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. How are you?
I'm all right, Debbie. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. I know you speak to quite a few of the UKCP family members, and we are really grateful for somebody listening, letting us speak, because this is just getting horrendous now, and more people are stepping forward every day that we're finding, and I'm personally finding, are contacting us and contacting myself, and I know other members are getting that as well. So we are speaking up.
And we're incredibly grateful for all of you to trust us to tell your stories. And we're going to come on to this later because you actually run a sister group to UKCV Family for the bereaved. And we'll come on to why you're running that group now, because I just want to take us back to January the 24th, 2021. Alex, tell us what happened on that day and tell us what you've been going through ever since, silently, alone. Although you've had a great deal of support, I know, from UKCV Family, but what happened on the 24th of January 2021?
So, well, first of all, yeah, the UKC family has been amazing, and so has my family, my friends. I've been literally scaffolded up. Um, but like many people, my mum on the 24th of January, she was a retired nurse. She went for the AstraZeneca vaccine, and she died within 4 days, on the 28th of January.
Alex, as you said, your mum is a retired nurse, and you've reminded me that nurses, once we've made our minds up, we've made our minds up, and your mum had made her mind up to take the injection on the 24th of January, the AstraZeneca, and we must pay. We're doing this interview for your mum and your brother, and we'd like to just pay tribute to Anthea, your mum, because, well, we have to remember that every single person that you're speaking to and your mum, they were loved ones, they were people, and they're being forgotten by pretty much everyone. So this is very important that this is for Anthea and for Alex, for Alex's brother, James. And when she had this in the first injection on the 24th of January, because she'd got a history, she was 71, wasn't she? And she had a history of osteoporosis, and she started to get really bad joint pain almost immediately, didn't she, after the injection? And it worried you. So you decided to go and stay with her. So what happened when you got there? How did you find her?
So it was the Christmas lockdown, and obviously the lockdown was still continuing into January. And I'd just like to say that, you know, my mum was really, her instinct was right. There was something wrong about this. But I just want to say that, people have made stupid comments, which I just ignore. Of, well, she chose, she didn't. There was no informed choice going on. But she took it in the end because I just wanted to say this, Debbie, that she did it out of love. And everyone I know has taken this out of love, worrying about the loved ones. They've fed on that, and they've done a really good job of dividing us all. And we need to point all in the same direction now, because nobody's done this because they wanted to. There's a lot of mocking going on out there, people who have died, people who are injured, and it's got to stop. Nobody's done this because they wanted to do this. They did it out of love and care for those around them. And that is why my mum took it in the end. She didn't want it. I didn't, neither of us agreed with it. She knew her nursing instinct. She knew something was off. But she always used to say, I've been retired a long time. There's a lot I don't know now. But she was a phenomenal nurse in her day. Towards the end of her life, yes, she suffered terribly, excuse me, with osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. The day after the jab, I was coming back from work, and I came back from work, sorry, came into hers because I was staying at hers for the lockdown, and I found her on the floor. Um, and I went to pick her up, which I often used to help her, and my brother helped her with mobility, getting up out of chairs. And this was a strong woman in her day. And she was a nurse. You guys are strong, you have to be. Um, but the osteoporosis had taken its toll. I found her on the floor, and I went to pick her up, and my mother screamed. I have never heard my mother scream. Her joints, she literally said to me, they were like they're on fire. And she said the words, "I want to die." She was in so much pain. Literally, I straightened her up to take her to bed, to get her into the bed. And she was in that much agony. And I'm listening to the vaccine injured talk in UK CV Family, the vaccine injured across the world talking. And so many of them are talking about bone pain. They're talking about dislocation of joints. It's unbelievable. And I'm learning so much from them about what my mum was probably going through in those last few days. Strangely enough, the day before she died, it was like she was completely normal. And I know that there's I forget what they call it, but it's where the body kicks in the last sort of hours before they pass over. But my mum, it's like she had no osteoporosis. It was really odd. But that next day, immediately after, she was in the most immense pain. I mean, I've never seen her in pain like it. And she had osteoporosis in her spine, in her hands. She'd had operations on her hands to try and straighten them out because osteoporosis and osteoarthritis had really taken its toll on my mum. But it's, as I say, it's a constant learning curve, and particularly the vaccine injured are so full of knowledge as to what they're dealing with, and bone pain just being one of the many things they deal with. So yeah, these doctors, they need to start speaking to vaccine injured and bereaved. They'll start learning something for starters.
And that's exactly right, isn't it, Alex? Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, your groups know more now than all of the experts pretty much put together. And I do think it's very important that we come back to a very important point that you made, and it's one that we've heard from everyone that's suffered with vaccine injuries and their families, and that is that people that took the vaccine did it because they A, trusted the experts, and B, wanted to protect those around them, and were told to protect the NHS and to protect those around them. And I think this is really a very important point. Everyone else has said the same. This was done for good intentions. So your mum took this injection out of love. On the fourth
Yeah.
day, Alex, you went to work, and you were in contact with your mum during the day most days, and you knew she had a nap in the afternoon. So you went to work on the 24th. You'd spoken to her in the morning. You knew
The
she was having a
28th,
little
yeah.
sleep on the 28th.
Yeah.
Sorry, you knew she was having a
That's
little
okay.
sleep. What happened when you got back from work on that day?
So I had finished a little bit early. I was actually getting back to mum's at about 4:45. And as I mentioned before, it's very weird that the moments before certain situations, and it was January, so it was very cold, and obviously it was getting dark. It was not 5 in the evening, around 5. But the air, everything was just really still. But it was a beautiful sunset, and it's just weird that the moments before something that, well, is the worst thing that's ever happened to me and my family. Um, and I walked in, and it was very cold in the flat, in my mum's flat, and it was dark, which was, even if she was having an early night, or if my brother or I came over, and she'd have the hall lights on so that we could come in. We had our keys for, obviously, access for safety and things. And my mum's dog Lily wasn't there, and all the lights were off, and the back doors were wide open. It was January, so it was really cold. And I went into the living room, and Mum's dog Lily had pushed the doors open and was barking in the garden. And I put the living room light on, and my mum's on the floor.
But you know, if this is too much, we can come back to it.
And right, yeah, so I've gone over to her, thinking that she's fallen, and I've gone to pick her up, and her eyes are open, but she's gone. So I'm just screaming, trying to resuscitate her, trying to call the ambulance, trying to do everything at once. And eventually they turn up. I'm calling my brother, bless his heart, he had to come quite a distance knowing that she's gone. And I remember the paramedic, and this is what's appalled me with the medical profession, Debbie. Mum being a retired nurse, you know, your Hippocratic oath, first do no harm. People talking about it all the time now, but that was sacrosanct to Mum and to people in her profession at that time. He came in, he wouldn't come near her. He was like, "Oh, it's probably COVID. She's been gone for hours," and I'm like begging him to do anything. It turns out that she had passed away hours before, but he's just like, "Just help me, do anything. I'm not medical. Just, get your." I was screaming at him, "Get your pedals out." I'm trying to resuscitate my own mother in front of a paramedic. Unable to do anything, obviously. It's just the lack of, and I understand people, they're exhausted, and I understand at that time it was lockdown, and they are, running around, non-stop work. Mum used to say when she was busy on shift, you're lucky if you get a glass of water, you don't stop. So, I really respect the medical profession, but my mother, if alive today, would be wiping the floor with 50% of them. Now, only now, some of them are starting to speak out about this. It's pretty far down the track that you're speaking now. We're talking, just the beginning of 23 now. So I'm just, all of them, from coroners to pathologists and other people that are speaking to me, that are now where we were almost 2 years ago as a family. And my heart breaks for them because I know what they're going to go through. And I pray that they can get the right support and the right advice. And I've mentioned to you about, I'll talk about it a bit later, but the support that we got, the legal support that we got. But to have your mum just brushed aside, oh no, not even coming over, oh no, it's probably COVID. Well, he was wrong, that wasn't correct, was it? That didn't turn out to be right. I wanted to walk in front of a bus for the next 4 days until my COVID test came through to tell me I was negative. I thought I'd killed my mother with COVID. There's a duty of care. We keep talking about these phrases, but they were, as I say, they were sacrosanct to my mother and to people like yourself. It's that old school of nursing that seems to have gone out the window. And I'm seeing it everywhere. I mean, having said that, there's been others that have stepped forward. I'll talk about the pathologist at my mum's inquest, who was speaking the truth last year about his findings with mum. But I'll digress, sorry, I apologise. But after that, my brother was there, and then the police came, and mum was taken, eventually taken to, we had some time with her. My brother got to have some time with her, which was just heartbreaking. How he got there, I don't know, because to know, to find is one thing, to have to travel knowing she's gone, the distance he had to that's just so hard. And then, we were waiting for the coroner to tell us in regards to having an inquest, because we were told we had mum's service. Sorry, I'm zigzagging all over the place. We had mum's service at the beginning of March, but she died at the end of January, and it took February. And I understand these things take time. Post-mortem was done. It has to be done. She'd want me to be practical and talk about things, but it's your little mum, you just don't want to think about it. But it had to be done, obviously. And we were told on the interim death certificate that mum had died from pneumonitis induced by AstraZeneca vaccine. And again, I'll say it again, my brother and myself, not remotely medical, had no interest in that world, even though mum was a nurse. We're not legal. We were just floored. You don't want it to be this. Nobody wants it to be the vaccine. vaccine injured and vaccine bereaved don't want to be dealing with this. It's going to be heartbreaking when someone goes anytime to know that they've gone naturally and when it was their time. I don't think it softens the blow. You're going to miss them just as much, but this just complicates the grief that you're going through anyway. We were then told, skipping forward, in June of 2021, so this is 5 months after Mum had died, we were told there won't be an inquest. And my brother and I just couldn't understand what was going on. And the rest of my family were like, well, this doesn't make sense. And it's funny, the people that come into your life at certain times, I won't mention her name, but a really lovely friend. She's retired medical as well. And we'd met on a group on Facebook, which I'm not a fan of Facebook, but we'd met, you're scrabbling around for support wherever you can get it. And so we'd met on a group there for vaccine injured and bereaved. And she said, you need to speak to Peter Todd. And I'd never heard of him. She'd give me all the information about him. He's a medical solicitor. I know I'm not speaking out of turn by saying his name because I have asked him if I could mention him today. But he was phenomenal and so gentle and kind, but also there's a rod of steel through that man, and he is wanting to stand up and speak up for and fight these cases. Mum's case was getting swept under the carpet, and if it wasn't for him and the pathologist speaking up, it would be still now. It would be shoved aside. And what's awful is people coming to me now, like I just said earlier, who are just at the beginning of this journey. And for some people that are speaking to me, it's too late. They've had the service. To put it bluntly, there is no evidence now. It's too late. And I have been speaking to other people in various professions who are like, yes, that has been going on. And I say, I'm not going to put people in positions where, I put them on the line. That's up to them to step up. But without Peter, we wouldn't have got the inquest. We had to, he then requested a judicial review, which was autumn, beginning of winter. He requested that because he was like, I think I'm wording this correctly, but if you have multiple reasons for death, one of those things on there is unnatural on the death certificate, or is being shown as cause of death. One of those things is unnatural. You can have multiple things. Then an inquest should be held. My understanding is that is standard practice. And so he couldn't understand what was going on. So we asked him to submit a judicial review. And then the coroner, within the time frame, said, yes, we will have an inquest. So he managed to get that. If it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have happened, because I do not have a Scooby-Doo about legal stuff, sales and marketing and distribution all my life. And as was my brother, why would I know what to do? So people are in this position where you are, an everyday person, and you're having to understand medical and legal issues. You need the support and help, and this is where, and I know I speak for other people, when it would be great if we could have some. I know there's a lot of legalities that are going on with different people, but if we could have some volunteers coming forward, even an hour a month of legal advice on a Zoom group with various groups, and there's other fantastic groups. There's VIP UK. I know they've got their campaigns going on. There's global jab injuries. There's so many campaigns going on at the moment. So there's so many of us going through this, and we need that legal support, because otherwise people's loved ones are just being dismissed. And this isn't for money. This is to do justice for my mum. As far as I'm concerned, she's been killed. So this is to do justice for my mum. She wouldn't have this. She would stand up to this. And this is why I'm speaking up. And more people are speaking up, because this is going on every day. And the numbers, we are getting the numbers. I am personally getting the numbers coming to me off of my social medias, asking for Peter's details, asking for what our experience was. Whatever solicitor you need to use, fine. But I'm telling you what my process was. And he, if it wasn't for him, as I keep saying, we would not have had the inquest. And I am forever grateful. And the pathologist that stood up at the inquest, and that was June 22. So it was literally a year and 5 months from Mum's death that we finally had the inquest. And there's people still waiting for inquest. Um, I actually think we had it quite quick, considering what I'm hearing.
To be honest with you, Alex, I mean, I cannot even begin to think what you've been through, because we've heard this before, where people have been unsuccessful in turning decisions around, unsuccessful in being able to even obtain post-mortems, and you have trailblazed your way through determination, but having to put aside grieving as well, because as you said, nobody wants this to be a vaccine injury. Nobody nobody wants to lose their mum. And we'll come on to what the pathologist said at the inquest, because I think that's really important, but also to highlight that, where are you all to the coroners? Why
Yeah,
aren't you
where are they?
standing up? Because
Yeah,
the
that's
coroners
it.
are the one link. Yeah, they're the one link, the one group, together with haematologists, I might add as well, and some pharmacologists, that are not standing up. And when I wrote to the chief coroner, I pretty much got what Alex Thompson would refer to as word soup back, and with doors slammed. But you have trailblazed, and I know that our viewers and listeners that are watching are going to say, who is this Peter Todd? How do I get hold of Peter Todd? So we will put details up, but you can find Peter Todd on Twitter, at Peter Todd. So that's the little A, and Peter Todd, that's his handle on Twitter, or email ptodd@scomo, SCOMO.com. So if anybody does want to contact him, those are his contact details. So we have this amazing medical solicitor, but I also want to stress that this doesn't come free. The families have to be in a position to be able to afford legal advice in the first place, let alone taking it all the way to judicial review like you have. So, and I can understand why UK CV family need donations, as many as possible, on their GoFundMe page, because not all families are in a position to be able to fight any battles. And sadly, the days of legal aid have pretty much disappeared. So it's really important that these families receive the legal help. But I mean, there's a few points here, Alex, I just want to return to, because number one, it's very surprising that actually they put on the interim death certificate, um, almost death by AstraZeneca is what they were saying. Um, did you have any contact with AstraZeneca, and had you submitted a yellow card to the MHRA?
Yes, submitted the yellow card. Got the usual automated emails that you get back. AstraZeneca, it was, I think the best phrase was questionnaire was sent to me after I submitted Mum's information, and that was it. Peter requested at the inquest that MHRA attend or make a statement, and he requested the same of AstraZeneca. Nothing, not a word, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've spoken before, obviously, and we were talking about the involvement of the MHRA, and I've heard from the MHRA board meetings and lectures and talks that June Rain and Alison Cave have done, that they investigate every fatality from COVID-19 injection.
Okay.
And I know from you now that, number one, they haven't investigated, but number two, when you said that they'd sent you a questionnaire, I said to you, so they're actually not asking how you are and any circumstances and what they can do for help. All they're doing is requiring more data from you, more information. They're not
Yes.
offering
Yeah.
any type of help. So you've had no interaction with the MHRA, given that your mother, on her death certificate, it has said induced pneumonitis induced by AstraZeneca. You have had
Yes.
no interaction with the MHRA at all. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. I mean, all I've had, as I say, was I submitted the yellow card information. Thought that was very important to do. Beginning to wonder. Um, and was the automated that you get back, the automated email. And I've had, as I say, with AstraZeneca, it was like questionnaire isn't quite right, but it was that sort of tick box. That was it. nothing.
It seems to be the way of the MHRAs. They
Well,
say
I'm
one
not
thing
surprised.
and they do
I'm not
another.
surprised. Yeah, they're beyond useless. They're shambles. They really are.
So we've now got amazing angel in human form Peter, who has he's challenged the coroner's decision not to hold an inquest, because let's not forget too that your mum was her body was held for 3 months, so you weren't even allowed a funeral until the March, and now we're suddenly June, and you suddenly get told, no, sorry, inquest is off. So you go down the track, and Peter manages to get the inquest, but let's rewind, because something else happened in between you getting the inquest. Tragically, tell us about Christmas, Alex, and your brother, because as if things weren't bad enough, they took a very dark, tragic turn. Tell us what happened. I know this is going to be really difficult for you, Alex, because when I heard your story for the first time, I absolutely couldn't believe it. So for just to help you out a little bit here, and I just want you to take a breath, and please feel free to jump in when you feel ready to. Your beloved brother, a young man who'd had got a few medical problems, but was funny and outgoing, and you had a very close relationship with him.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, 2021.
Yes.
Um,
He went in with he caught COVID. He had been with me 4 days before. I have a video of him laughing about being ridiculous. And so it was a Tuesday that he was with me. And by the Friday, he was in ICU. It was that quick for him. Um, and I'm getting really tired of people telling other people what their experience is or that they're wrong. Now, I don't care what people want to call it, COVID, SARS, this, that, the other. He was ill in life. He was only 43, bless his heart. And it's actually his anniversary tomorrow. But
I think what we should say is that James went into hospital. He was taken into ICU. He was put on mechanical ventilation. You
yes,
tried to stay with
yeah,
him.
yeah. We will. So basically, when I got there on Christmas Eve to pick him up, he'd said Wednesday evening, Thursday morning of that week that he was, not feeling good. This was, and I just, did the usual older sister thing. What man flu? Buck up! It's Christmas Eve. This is the first Christmas without Mum. We're all going to be together as a family. I'll come and pick you up. And when I got there on Christmas Eve morning, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and it was like he was suffocating in front of me. And I know for the majority of people, yes, COVID is just like a cold. I think I had it way back, and it was just like a cold for me. But it was, the closest that I mentioned this to you before, Debbie, previously, it was the closest I can compare it to was like an asthma attack. But he was frightened. He was very scared. And he'd had a usual cold in the autumn, got rid of it fine with paracetamol, all the usual sort of cough medicines. But this was different, and it is different. And the paramedics came, and to be fair, they were amazing compared to Mum's paramedic. They were amazing, and they actually wanted him to stay in the flat. So they spent a good hour doing tests, whatever tests they could do with, obviously, with the equipment they had. But his oxygen levels were so low that he wanted to go in. They said we need to take him in. He's a 43-year-old man. They wanted to stay at home. I was happy to cancel Christmas, be there, do the 10 days, 14 days, whatever we need to do, lock ourselves in. But it was dangerous. His levels of oxygen were dangerously low. So he went in, and they kept him on a ward, on a mask, and they didn't put him or didn't take him to the ICU until that night. So he was on the ward for a good 10, 11 hours. And they were constantly calling me saying, we want to see his levels up. They want him out of there. They want him home. Um, they didn't want to, I know they didn't want to put this young man on a ventilator. And his last text to me, I still have it, bless his heart, was, they're going to put me to sleep now. And a big kiss. And then the 6th of January, he died. So he went in on Christmas Eve. On the 2nd of January, there was a big window of hope. The ICU nurses called me. I mean, I was calling every day, but obviously you can't go in, you can't be in and out. And the ICU nurses called me and said, "Great news! He'd had some infections. The antibiotics, he wasn't reacting well to them. They'd found one that he was reacting well to, and they said he will be fully awake by the end of the night shift. He's already shown signs. We've started to reduce sedation, and he's already showing signs of breathing for himself around the equipment, because obviously you can't just wake somebody up. It has to be done very carefully and slowly." So I remember I was with my family, and we were all just celebrating that he's coming home, and all the things we were going to do, and the foods we were going to give him, and of course was going to give him earache. And then they called me the next morning and they said, unfortunately, we've had to keep him fully sedated. And I was, what are you talking about? You told me by the end of the shift he'd be awake. I was, in my naivety, I thought they were calling for me to speak to him. And they said, no, the infection's taken a turn for the worse. And my brother had developed sepsis, which obviously if you go into hospital with germs, etc., what's the phrase? Don't go into hospital if you don't want to get ill or die, particularly now with what's going on. But his body, he couldn't fight it anymore. And I was called in on the 5th for a year ago today. I was called in for end of life time with him. And I know he could hear me. As I said before to you, Debbie, Mum always used to say that hearing is the last thing to go. And I was telling him off, telling him he's going to wake up and come back. Telling him he wasn't going to leave me.
He's with you right now, Alex, and he really is. And I think we should point out to our viewers and listeners that the photographs behind you are your mum and your brother. And today, for the interview, you thought you'd probably need a quiet environment, so you're now looking after Lily, your mum's dog, and you shut her out of the room this morning, but she wasn't going to have any of it, and she was barking to come back in. So you've got Lily with you.
Yeah.
Good. I'm so glad. And the pictures behind you are beautiful, and we'll make sure that we show our viewers and listeners those a little bit closer up.
Thank you,
because this is all about James and Anthea. So what alarmed me slightly, when James was dying and you knew that he was dying because he was on end of life care, you were with him, but you wanted to stay. You wanted to stay in the hospital. In fact, you said you didn't want to be any trouble. You would just sit in the day room because you knew that he was close to the end. But what kind of response did you get when you asked if you could do that?
So I was there for about 3.5 hours. They allowed me to have that. The doctor was appalling, as Mum would have had a field day with him. His bedside manner he could do with some training. But I was told to go home. I asked if I could stay in the waiting room, a day room waiting room. It was just off of it. I appreciate it's ICU. I appreciate you can't be in and out. Of course, people are sick in there. But they were like, no, you can't even stay in the waiting room. And I was like, well, why not? I'll sleep there. Or I wasn't going to sleep, but I'll just stay there. And then, I can be there when it's the end. And it would have been about 8 o'clock that I left that night. Yeah, about 8 o'clock. And, the nurses in ICU were amazing. I remember giving them absolute earache, saying, he's not vaccinated. My mother died from the vaccine. Anybody starts with me or doesn't look after my brother, of course they're going to. They do an amazing job. But you'll be dealing with me and the rest of my family, and I'll anything else I could throw at you. But they were fantastic, and they were really honest. They said, "Look, we've got a mixture in here. The media don't talk about it, but we've got a mixture of unvaccinated and vaccinated people in ICU." And these are the ICU nurses talking to me, telling me this. Um, and they said he will get all, you know, they, they remarked about how handsome he was, because he was a very handsome man, and 43. They wanted him out, they wanted him up, and that's why the 2nd of January, I know that they were. Well, the nurse was just ecstatic on the phone. He's out of there. He's coming home, as far as she was concerned. Um, but yes, I then was told to go home, and it was 5 o'clock. I was called on 6 to say that he passed away, and it was about 3 o'clock that he passed away. But I know he heard me. As I said, he was giving him, telling off, and joking with him, and just being with him, and stroking his hair, and yeah, he cried. A tear came down, and so I understand that he could hear me.
Yes, I think it's something that your mum would have said to you, and
Yeah,
every nurse knows that the hearing, and I think it's very important for relatives and family to know, because the hearing is the last sense to go, and the last thing that you want is doctors all around a bed talking about things in front of a patient. Just because they're unconscious, just because they're on a ventilator, doesn't mean to say they can't hear. So it's really, really important for people to talk. And I'm glad you told him off, as a big sister would.
always did,
But
always did.
yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, Alex, in the background, we've still got Peter Todd working away, um, with the judicial review. Your brother never saw the result of that. You were not only grieving, or not being allowed to grieve for your mother, you were having to fight the legal, well, you were having to set a legal challenge at cost to you and your brother. Your brother then gets very sick and tragically dies. Um, I cannot possibly imagine what you must have been feeling, because it's almost like you're being attacked on all fronts. Because
Yeah,
then
it's
you
up.
have to
Yeah,
organise your brother's, you have to say goodbye to your brother, while still having to navigate this course with the inquest. How did that go? Tell us how you went, and how Peter, how you managed to get through the terrible loss of James, and to navigate your way through to get the inquest reinstated.
Peter had confirmation before that Christmas of 2021 that the inquest would go ahead. So my brother did know that there would be an inquest. So that's always like, we did it, we got it. But obviously, he didn't live to see the inquest and the outcome. He knows now. They both know now. But yeah, going forward, and obviously having to say goodbye to James, and for the whole family to just, another death, and to have lost the two most amazing people in my world to either end of this, and to have people tell you you're misinformation, and to have people tell you you're wrong. I'm getting really tired of it. I'm getting really sick of it. And I'm fed up with people attacking the vaccine industry and bereaved, who are doing their best just to get through each day with grief, with injuries, with legal issues. Um, and the likes of Peter Todd, and other professionals stepping up is an absolute ray of sunshine in a very dark world at the moment. He got the inquest to be held in, well, June 2022. I'm still understanding the 2023, and so last year, 2022 now, and we had the inquest, and I've got to be honest, I thought it'd be an absolute whitewash. I thought they'll shove it back under the carpet. You kind of hope that somebody might say something, but we were not remotely expecting the pathologist to be as honest and to stand up and say what he did. And of course, he's dealing with the findings. It's not Trevor in his tracksuit behind his keyboard here. This is a pathologist. He's dealing with my mum. He's dealing with this case. And as the coroner said at the end, she said, "Thank you for your honesty, because it is your findings that we rely on heavily to make the decision, the verdict." Um, And I mean, obviously, inquest is long. I had my wonderful best friend there, his family support, and Peter was there. And his words I'll never forget. After all the findings and everything that they went through, he was asked by the coroner, was AstraZeneca vaccine fatal for my mother? And he said, yes, it was. His words, she would be here today had she not been given the vaccine. I mean, I literally, my heart just shattered all over again. And you want the truth. I want the truth, but to hear it, just to know that I took her for the damn jab. I didn't agree with it. She didn't. But you think that one injection in her little arm, and that's it. 4 days later, and he stood up and he was so honest with his findings, and I will be forever grateful to that pathologist. Um, I won't be naming his name or anything like that because that's down to individuals to stand up, as I said before. But he was completely honest with Mum's case, and I wasn't expecting it. I was really expecting it to be just shelved. And this is why, again, I'm speaking up, I keep saying it, because I've got people who are there now where we were, and my heart breaks for them. And I will,
You know,
there's nothing I can do,
Alex,
but I will always speak up about it.
yeah, and I think it's important also to say that inquests are very traumatic, can be very
Yeah, it's
traumatic
awful. I literally felt like
events.
I was out of my body, to be honest. I didn't feel like I was in the room. It's nothing I've experienced before. It's horrible. It's awful experience, but has to be done. And Mum would want me to be practical. And I was
Yeah,
no way I wasn't
because
going to get justice from my mum. No way.
no, because you have to, you have to hear accounts from medical professionals. You have to see pictures, see slides as well, see evidence. So this is a traumatic procedure. Now, given that the death certificate said pneumonitis induced by AstraZeneca injection,
Yeah.
I would hope that both the MHRA and AstraZeneca were represented at the inquest. What did they have to say?
Zero. A big fat zero. Nothing. Peter had asked them, both AstraZeneca and MHRA, to attend. It's a long shot, but attend. He asked a statement if not attending. Nothing. Not a word. Nothing. That just speaks volumes. Wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want, if you're pro this or you're working in that industry, wouldn't you want to know what these cases are about? What's happening to these people? Surely. Doesn't
Wouldn't
make
you
any
think that
sense.
there would be a legal obligation? For me,
Oh,
there should be a legal obligation. This is, as you've said before, your mother was killed. It was induced, and the pathologist said that she would be still here if it wasn't for AstraZeneca. And yet, AstraZeneca aren't attending the inquest. They're not asked for evidence. No one's questioning them, as with the MHRA, who approved this injection, which now, by the way, has pretty much been ditched without anybody really taking too much notice of. AstraZeneca, everybody was taking AstraZeneca, and then all of a sudden, nobody's talking about it anymore. So, you really have, you're a groundbreaker, Alex. You really are a complete groundbreaker because you've taken a situation which was, well, most people would have given up, but you've managed to get through and get that inquest reinstated. Why is there no legal obligation? I think, we should find out if we don't know, or perhaps do you know if there
I
is,
don't.
and they shirked their legal obligation.
I have no idea, and it's a very good point because I think, I mean, this whole indemnity for the pharmaceuticals that's going on, and the government gave them. Is that what are the legal implications with all of that? So I don't know if it's part of that indemnity or not, but you'd think. But I mean, the pharmaceuticals, the government, and mainstream media. I mean, it's just a cesspit of horrors. It really is, and this is why people like yourself and UK Column have the decency to give real people. We're not some social media account, and that's all we are. We're people. These are real lives that they have destroyed, taken. As I said, my mother's been killed, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion, and absolutely right on it. The injuries, they're life changing, these vaccine injuries. They're not on the sofa watching daytime TV for a few weeks with a bit of Lemsip and, it's an illness. It's injury to their bodies. As I said, I'm learning so much from the vaccine injured. They're amazing. They really are.
And as you quite rightly have said, many of these injuries, they're life changing and
Yeah,
sometimes tragically life ending, and the ripple effects for the whole family. People have lost their loved ones, they've lost relationships, they've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes.
yeah,
We've recently spoken to Charlotte at UKCV Family, and that interview will be coming out soon. It's probably already gone out now by the time this one's gone out, but we always try to catch up with
yeah,
all of those who are vaccine injured, and those that have been bereaved, because the story must remain. We must remain on top of this. We must not allow this to
yeah,
be swept under the carpet, which is what the coroners are doing. And I'd come back
yeah,
to the fact that the coroners are really letting us down. No one's speaking up, no one's talking to us, and they should be. We've already got one coroner now who knows that your mum died of an AstraZeneca vaccine. Why is that not all over the mainstream media? Why are we not hearing about that? And
yeah,
this it brings me back to inquests and the legality of
yeah,
these people are getting away literally with murder. And but with every interview that I do now, Alex, and I do like to think that this is probably going to stay for me, is that I like to give everybody that we interview the last word, because you are raising so many red flags when you're really needing to grieve. You've been through huge trauma, huge emotional experience. You've lost the two dearest people in your life, and you're now having to fight on behalf, not just still on behalf of your mum and behalf of your brother, but you're having to fight on behalf of other people, which is extraordinary. I don't know how anybody manages to do it whilst they're still grieving.
I just wanted to just quickly say there is a campaign that's running across January, and as Fiona said, I mentioned it to you before, it's called the Truth Be Told campaign. If you're vaccine injured or bereaved, you can get involved and you can be heard, you can be seen. But it's across the country, and as she said, it doesn't end in January because this isn't ending. Um, but she's doing a phenomenal job of giving the vaccine injured and bereaved a voice. She's speaking to us all independently from different groups. It's not affiliated with any groups. It's her wish to have us have a voice and a face, because no one's, as you know, no one's listening. You guys and a few select others. So if you can check it out, there's marches. I'll send you the link, Debbie. There's marches across the country, but it's a lot of it's about information. She's got doctors coming. She's got vaccine injured and bereaved speaking. This is not for conspiracy theories and chemtrails, and you can have your opinion. I have my plenty of my own opinions on what's going on and what's been going on. But this is about the voice of us being heard. We're real people, and talking of legalities, she wants to make sure that she's been shut down. She'll talk to you about it herself, but she's had all sorts of what should I say, being being quietened down, being shut down. But she wants to be able to help those that are injured, bereaved, and if you need legal help, you need a care. She's trying to raise funds so that those people are helped. Because going forward, there's going to be cases, in my opinion, just from what I'm seeing. And again, that's my opinion.
And I would also say to anybody that's listening that needs that this is sounding familiar to you, or you need some help or support, please go to UKCV Family website. We'll put the link up on the page, because you can get hold of Alex through that page. You can just use the contact form, because there's going to be, as Alex says, lots more cases. But for my final words, before I hand over to you for your final words, Alex, my final words are thank you. We all need to be listening to you. Your story is absolutely harrowing, and the fact that you're telling your story, you're alerting us we need to hear you. We need to be listening to you, because there, for the grace of God, go the rest of us. So thank you. But as always, I do want to give you the last word. And if there is a message that you would like to give, whether it be to June Rain, the professionals, to people out there watching and listening, to others that are bereaved, in memory of your wonderful, beloved mum, Anthea, and your beloved brother, James, I want to hand over to you for the last words. And again, thank you so much, Alex, because I know that we will be catching up with you again, and we will be following your story, because there's more of your story to tell. So on that note, please, to all listeners and viewers, please share this, and please share the details if you know anybody that needs Alex or UKCV families help. So over to you, Alex, and thank you again.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you for giving us the platform. Reiterating what you're saying, I just want people out there to know that if you're vaccine injured or bereaved, we are here. You're not alone. And I want to say to the pharmaceuticals, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, Novavax, and the rest, we see you.